She serves as our Republican Conference Chair, which makes her the highest-ranking elected Republican in New York and the fourth in Congress behind the Speaker, Majority Leader, and the Whip. She is the youngest woman ever of either party to serve in top elected leadership. New York hasn't had a Republican in top majority congressional leadership in over 100 years. Elise is a unifier and a party builder. She puts others first and empowers Republican leaders all around the state. She is a delight to work with. She has led the effort in her district to flip 3 county legislatures, ensuring all 15 counties in New York 21 and the 21st Congressional District of New York are represented by Republican leadership. Elise has flipped over 30 towns and cities from blue to red. Everyone knows upstate New York and the North Country is Elise country. Democrats have thrown everything they have at Elise Stefanik over the years, nearly $100 million, and she's still standing stronger than ever. She doesn't back down from a fight and knows how to win. If you don't believe me, just ask the now former presidents of Harvard and Penn universities. Boy, that was a great performance. It's been almost a half century since we've had a vice president of the state of New York. If you ask me, it's about time for another one. It is an honor to present the Jack Kemp Leadership Award to the chairwoman of the House Republican Conference, New York's own Elise Stefanik.
Wow. Thank you so much, Chairman Ed Cox, for that kind introduction, for your friendship and support, and for all you do as our incredible chair of the New York State Republican Party. I also want to thank Governor Abbott for speaking here today. Unlike our own failed governor in New York, Governor Abbott is a national leader on so many issues on economic growth, but on securing our border. And make no mistake, despite Joe Biden, Kathy Hochul, and Chuck Schumer's catastrophic border policies, everyday New Yorkers want a secure border. We want to build the wall, and we support Texas's right to defend itself. So thank you, Governor Abbott. It's also a privilege to welcome our newly elected RNC Chair, Michael Whatley, who is a strong America First leader who will get the job done this November with a clean sweep of Republican victories, electing President Trump, flipping the Senate, and holding the House and picking up seats. We look forward to working with you, Chairman Whatley. Thank you for being here. And of course, I want to recognize my colleagues in Congress who are great teammates every day and delivered the House Republican majority right here in our great state. We have New York to thank for firing Nancy Pelosi once and for all. History has proven that the road to the Speaker's gavel and the House majority always runs right straight through New York State. And mark my words, Hakeem Jeffries, and this is for the media, every New York Republican incumbent is coming back, and we will pick up at least one more seat. New Yorkers will hold the line to save this country. It's also great to see Lee Zeldin, who truly led an extraordinary campaign at the top of our New York ticket in 2022 that helped down ballot races all across the state, and who I know will be back in elected office here in New York very soon. I I also want to thank my longtime close friend, John Faso, who I have known longer than anyone else in this room. I've known John since I was in middle school in the same grade as his son. John is a dear friend, and John and Chairman Ed Cox led our legal effort to defeat the Democrats' desperate and illegal attempt to gerrymander our districts. And New Yorkers have fair lines today because of their hard work. So thank you, John. And most importantly, thank you to all the supporters all across New York and the entire country. And most especially, thank you to my constituents in upstate New York and the North Country who took a chance a decade ago on a 29-year-old unknown young woman when I first ran for Congress. I know we have some constituents here today, so thank you very much for making the trip. Thank you, Fulton County proud over there. I'm proud every day to give my constituents a voice at the highest levels in Washington, and amidst the smears from the mainstream media, I will never back down for being a fighter on their behalf. I'm truly humbled by this extraordinary honor of receiving the Jack Kemp Award by the New York GOP. Jack Kemp, as we know, was an iconic leader in our great state who was known as the quintessential happy warrior, who advocated for hardworking families, economic opportunity, and strengthening the American dream. I've gotten to know Jimmy Kemp over the years and am grateful for his family's work to continue Jack Kemp's legacy. My story starts in childhood. I was proudly born and raised in upstate New York and grew up in a small business family with incredibly hardworking parents who were determined to give their two children a better opportunity than they had themselves. I was the first member of my immediate family to have the opportunity to graduate from college, and I graduated from Harvard, but that's not the achievement. I graduated from Harvard and stayed a Republican. That's the achievement. And stay tuned, more on Harvard later in the speech. What many of you may not know is that the New York State Republican Party, the New York GOP, was where I got my start in politics and public service. 25 years ago, I started off as a high school intern for the New York Republican Party in the historic Albany headquarters. Before I could even drive, my mom would pick me up from Albany Academy for Girls and drop me off at the headquarters at State Street by myself in my school uniform to help for a few hours. I would stuff envelopes, help answer phones, and draw campaign signs. Never in my wildest dreams could I have ever imagined as a 15-year-old young girl that a mere 15 years later, I would make history as the youngest woman elected to Congress, flipping a Democrat district to Republican. Nor could I have ever imagined 10 years after that being honored with this truly incredible award as the highest-ranking Republican elected in New York as chair of the House Republican Conference. It's so meaningful to me, and while it's important to look back on our hard work together that got us here today, in the spirit of Jack Kemp, I want to look forward for our fight for brighter days ahead. We say that every election cycle is the most important election cycle. But this election cycle in November, it is the most important election in our lifetime. The fate of our country, the fate and stability of the entire world rests in the hands of the American people. The American people have experienced crisis after crisis of failed far-left Democrat policies led by the weak Joe Biden. Let's start with Joe Biden's border crisis. As Governor Abbott talked about earlier, Joe Biden has turned every state into a border state. It's not only an economic and national security crisis, it is a humanitarian crisis of millions illegally crossing and women and minors getting raped and assaulted, all because of Joe Biden's failed policies on day one. And we see this border crisis right here in New York with the catastrophic influx of illegal migrants. Just this week, yesterday, I was in my district and met with our brave Border Patrol at the northern border in the Swanton sector. And there has been an 800% increase in illegal crossings in the past 2 years in the Swanton sector. This would have been unthinkable just 4 years ago. Under Joe Biden, it is now the norm. President Trump and Republicans will run, and we will win on securing our border once and for all. And on top of the border crisis, we have historic Bidenflation, the highest rate of inflation in my lifetime. And the American people are smart. They know that it's a direct result of the trillions of dollars of reckless Democrat spending. And it is crushing hardworking families who are facing skyrocketing costs of groceries, utilities, housing, mortgage rates, and more. The majority of the American people believe that the American dream is slipping away for the next generation. This is not who we are. This should never happen in the United States of America. On top of the border crisis and the inflation crisis, we have a crime crisis, and New York is the epicenter. This dangerous crime crisis has wreaked havoc on this great city and on our great state. Kathy Hochul, Eric Adams, Tish James, and Democrats in the cesspool of Albany continue to double down on their epically failed bail reform that is causing tragic and irreplaceable loss of life. Why? Because they need to cater to the defund the police Democrats that are now mainstream in today's Democrat Party. And our brave NYPD officers have been assaulted, shot, and murdered. And as a new mother myself, I will never forget, who can ever forget, the horrible footage of Jonathan Diller's young wife, now a widow at 29, with their precious one-year-old baby. How many more, Kathy Hochul, Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer? You are all a disgrace. Republicans proudly back the blue. And Joe Biden and Democrats are not just causing these crises here at home. It's chaos around the world from a weak president that has emboldened our enemies and put our allies under attack. Look to the catastrophic withdrawal of Afghanistan, Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and now we saw our most precious ally Israel under attack from barbaric Hamas terrorists murdering Israelis, babies, mothers, daughters, brothers, fathers, grandparents, the bloodiest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. These terrorists want to erase the state of Israel and the Jewish people off the face of the earth. And today, the sitting president of the United States, Joe Biden, called for a ceasefire to try to force Israel to surrender to Hamas terrorists. Republicans will continue to do everything in our power to stand with our most precious ally, Israel, and we will fight every day to do so from the halls of Congress, and I know that we as New Yorkers will continue to stand with Israel. And what happened here at home on our so-called most elite college campuses after October 7th? Their presidents, now former presidents, failed to condemn the genocide of Jews, and they failed to combat the skyrocketing of anti-Semitism. Let me ask you a question. Did you all see that hearing? It is now the most viewed testimony in the history of the United States Congress, with over 1 billion views in a week and billions more since then. And it was because of the morally bankrupt answers. And I've been in a lot of high-profile hearings over the years. I have never heard more disgraceful, pathetic, and morally bankrupt testimony than I did in that hearing. I asked a simple moral question of the presidents of MIT, Penn, and Harvard. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct? And one after the other, MIT, Penn, and then Harvard said verbatim, quote, "It depends on the context." It does not depend on the context. 2 down, so many more to go. This hearing set off an earthquake exposing the moral rot and intellectual laziness of today's woke, radical, far left that has cratered these once great institutions. A reckoning is coming, and I believe this scandal will prove to be the greatest scandal ever in higher education. And mark my words, I will not rest until they are all exposed and held accountable. The world is looking for strong moral leadership, and these university presidents failed the test. And Columbia, you're next. You're coming April 17th. And amidst all of these crises created by Joe Biden and Democrats' failed policies in the radical far left, you see their polling plummeting. The illegal weaponization of the justice system against President Donald Trump is an unprecedented and desperate form of election interference. And it's far-left Democrats right here in our home state who have been leading this unconstitutional and unethical lawfare against President Trump because they know that Joe Biden can't beat him at the ballot box. From corrupt Tish James to unethical judges whose families are profiting to the tune of tens of millions of dollars off of these illegal witch hunts. The latest, just look at Alvin Bragg's sham case against President Trump. The Democrat Manhattan judge overseeing the trial donated to Joe Biden's campaign and another anti-Trump cause in 2020. The judge's direct family member is a Democrat political operative who is directly profiting off the trial to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. And the Democrats in the mainstream media, the stenographers for the Democrats, are trying to do everything they can to cover this up and refuse to report on it. When President Trump raised the additional evidence of this judge's bias, the judge retaliated by expanding the unconstitutional gag order on Trump. The left and the media seek to silence us, silence Republicans, because they can't afford to let the moral truth be known. Times are indeed dark, but I know that you share this. I have faith in the American people because I know the American people are smart. They see through the unconstitutional abuse of power by today's Democrat media and Democrat Party. They see through the bias we see every day in the mainstream media. And in this room, I know that we all see the light. We know that we must keep up our righteous fight to save New York, save America, and save the American dream. It is we the people who will save our great state and save our country. We the people will never give up on New York, and we will never give up on the United States of America. And this November, with your help, we will elect President Trump, the 45th and 47th President of the United States. We will flip the Senate, we will win the House, and we will soon have a governor of New York State. Thank you so much for this unbelievable honor. It is great to be here today. God bless you, God bless New York, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.